All right, then, let's get away from British royalty and talk about rock royalty. Nikki Sixx is here. We all know him as founder of the Crew, Motley Crue, and 6 a.m. This is their new album, This Is Gonna Hurt. It is out this week. Here it is. And his book, titled with the same name, is in stores now, and it's very interesting. I had a chance to read it today. Watch this, then we'll talk to Nikki. Born Frank Ferrana, reborn Nikki Sixx, and born again into a second chance at life. The 9 lives of Nikki Sixx started when he was a kid from a broken home, then a teenager, penniless, homeless, on the street. Next, he started breaking records and social boundaries with legendary rock band Motley Crue. As co-founder, Nikki led the group into the highest peaks of success, all the while falling deeper into a bottomless pit of addiction. He even died, literally, and lived to tell about it. How? He cleaned up and found recovery. So when you think about your experience with Motley Crue, what comes to mind first?
We've had a lot of fun. We broke a lot of rules. And I'm really proud of the music. I don't really think of the debauchery as much as everybody else does.
Well, you've told some war stories. I've heard them.
Yeah.
I think you were the one that talked about shooting alcohol straight, isn't that
Jack
you?
Daniels, yeah.
Yeah, because
we've talked a few times.
Yeah.
We've talked about stuff even off air about like how does that work like on the body?
How do you survive?
Yeah, how do you survive?
Well, it's interesting in that little piece we talked about. We sort of promoted the fact that you actually died. Your heart stops.
Yeah.
Tell people about that story.
Well, you know, it's interesting being in recovery. And then, you know, talking to other people in recovery, how many people have had that experience, especially heroin addicts.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of people with cocaine, you know, from seizures, have died and also had seizures.
But from my perspective, there's a lot more that you don't get to talk to.
Right.
A lot of my patients I get to put in the ground.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's not cool.
And I see it happen to people all the time. You know, a big part of writing the Heroin Diaries was showing the addiction at its worst, but also showing the recovery. And that's kind of where this book takes off.
What was your bottom?
You know, I think my bottom was, it was a bit of a spiritual, like, you know, sledgehammer. I mean, I really didn't have, like, the kind of bottom where I lost everything. It's, like, literally where I kind of just, like, had overdosed so many times that I just woke up and said, I want something different. And I never wanted anything different from my life either.
Was it, I don't want to die? Did you have that kind of thought?
No, it was, I want to live.
And is it, I'm disgusting, I want to change?
No, it was like something clicked.
Something stepped in.
Something stepped in. And I've heard the terminology, you know, spiritual awakening. And, you know, I used to really kind of like sneer at that whole thing and the whole idea of God and everything. And, you know, for me, if something happened, it shifted, and it did take a long time. It wasn't like it was just overnight, all of a sudden I was this happy guy. I mean, I had to reprogram myself.
And for you and for me that deals with addicts all the time, people out there, they hear your story of near-death, overdosing. That wasn't enough. No, it's never enough. That's not enough.
Never enough.
No, it's a brain disease where your brain doesn't properly perceive the consequence of what it's doing. It just wants to use, and nothing else matters.
I mean, I do believe that I'm an addict on one level or another at all times. Of
course.
You know, I do believe that when I'm writing music, I get addicted to the concept of, you know, what the outcome of the song is, or the passion behind the lyrics. In photography, I feel like that, you know, I really get into an addictive mode when I'm really shooting, and then I'll kind of will pull back and I'll go into something else. It's a great thing when it's a healthy thing, but I have to keep an eye on it all the time because it's a behavioral thing.
It's doing push-ups. Trust me. Right now, while we're talking, your disease is doing push-ups.
It's
waiting. It's waiting for you. Now, I actually really kind of got sucked into your book. I got to tell you something because I've known you a while, and I feel like I got closer to you reading this book.
Thank you.
And the part that haunted me, and I'm using that word intentionally, was this idea of you being a phantom or a ghost. And your dad being a ghost, and your sister Lisa being a ghost. Seemed like that's a theme that really haunted you as a kid.
There was a moment at Funny Farm, my photography studio, which there's a photo in there where I did a self-portrait, and I was trying to describe my photography, because it was really going to be a photography book. And as I was trying to describe it, I kind of had this moment where I looked around my studio and I went, everything in here is about my sister, Lisa. There was a lot of stuff in there that was like I'd been trying to kind of
tell people that story. You and I know it, but tell for the people at home what this is all about.
Well, I mean, she was born with Down syndrome, and she was
basically
wheelchair bound,
blind, deaf.
Yes, and she wasn't supposed to live past, anywhere, they're not supposed, Down syndrome in her severe case, not supposed to live past like 6 years old. And she did live to be 36 years old. But at the time, and, you know, God bless my mother, you know, she did tell me later, you know, because there was these moments of anger, fits of rage that I would have when it would come bubbling up. It's like, I have a sister. Where is this person? And, you know, I look back and it was 1960s, you know, early 60s. My mom was very young. She had me. What do you do with this child? You know, they institutionalized.
That's what they did back then.
That's what they did back then.
But it really haunted you. When I read that part about her, it really affected me rather deeply.
Yeah.
That it feels like a lot of your pain is around those sorts of losses, and Lisa sort of was the core focus of that. We have to take a break.
Okay.
When we come back, we're going to talk to Nikki some more. We're going to meet a woman who, I don't know, maybe she's like Lisa for you. She's inspired Nikki.
Yeah.
And you got to see this to see how. And here's Nikki in action with the crew singing Dr. Feelgood. That is Nicky's song with his new band, 6 a.m. It's called Lies of the Beautiful People. His new album will be in stores next week. And his book, This Is Gonna Hurt, is in stores now. Joining us is Amy Purdy. She is in the book. She's a model, a role model, and a spokesperson for challenged athletes. Now, Nikki, I want to talk to you about Amy. So, Amy, sit while we talk about you as though you're not here for a second. But I want to say something that just occurred to me during the break is normally you had a pretty rough childhood.
Yeah.
And you ended up homeless and heroin. I mean, the usual addict story.
Yeah.
And
not that unique.
And normally I kind of want to go there, but it's so much not with you anymore. You've kind of processed it all through.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, you seem like you're at peace with all of that.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, which is why I just kind of naturally skip right through it to something more important, which is this book, which is really, for me, you being exposing a deeper part of yourself than I've seen before. Yeah. And Amy was a part of this. Why?
Big part of it. I'm very influenced by certain photographers, and a lot of the photographers that influenced me, as well as stuff that I was influenced by artistically, was what would not be perceived as conventional beauty. And whether it was wet plate photography from the late 1800s, all the way through stuff like Diane Arbus, etc. So I was looking to create something with a double amputee that would be beautiful. I wanted to create a beautiful sort of a fantasy situation, and we met. And we bonded immediately. And there was, what I didn't know was going to happen was that she was going to inspire me on so many different levels. And through a lot of my photography is the day that, well, we met first and we built her these steel legs, spike legs. We put it what I call Amy in Wonderland in this amazing situation where she had this beautiful, you had this corset on, and we did this wig, and she looks absolutely beautiful, and we suspended her from the ceiling, and she was in this very, very feminine pose, and everything was very conflicting. You know, it was like there was, the legs were missing, but something else was there in their place. It didn't look like you could sit in this way, and you looked at peace with yourself, and we had this
beautiful,
and so beautiful. And that day, and well, it was actually that after that photo session. You don't know this. I went to a gas station, and there was People magazine, the 100 most beautiful people, and I'd had this beautiful experience with her, and I was pissed. I called up my band members, and I went, "We got a problem here. We got a serious problem," and we wrote the song "Lies of the Beautiful People." And it really inspired a lot of, it basically uncorked what was already happening with me. Was I was evolving as an artist and as a man and starting to see life differently and sort of renegotiate my own life. And Amy had a big part of that. And then finding out more about you, you know, and doing the documentaries.
So there's a documentary that goes along with this. We haven't even yet spoken to Amy, but let me say that there is a documentary that goes along with Nikki's book. You can see it on Hulu. Amy is in it, so just check this out.
I remember the day that the doctor walked in and said that he was going to have to amputate my legs. Like, even though I didn't have my legs, but I mean, when do you ever think about your legs and your feet? I mean, really, like, your legs and your feet are not you know, are not what make you beautiful.
Amy, what was it that happened to you?
Well, I was 19 years old, and I was really healthy. I was a massage therapist, I was a snowboarder, I was really active and into my health, and just, you know, a perfectly healthy 19-year-old. And then suddenly, in one day, my life changed forever, and I started to feel like I was getting the flu, and just kind of body aches and slight temperature, nothing too bad. And then within 24 hours, I was in the hospital fighting for my life with bacterial meningitis, and ended up losing my spleen, my legs, my kidney function, had a kidney transplant, lost the hearing in my left ear, had less than a 2% chance of living, so I was very lucky to survive. But yeah, we have no idea really how I got it. 1 in 4 people are carriers.
Well, it's the nature of infectious diseases. You just, you know, it either gets you or it doesn't. It's not about being healthy or not healthy. It's being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah.
And if people don't understand that, I hope people at home take that to heart, that there is a vaccine for this.
Right.
Please look into that, particularly if your kids are going off to college, that this is potentially preventable. And if you, it's a great lesson if you do get a febrile illness and things aren't going right, quickly get to help, because had you not, you would not be here right now.
Right, and you don't even know that something's going wrong.
Right.
You know, you think you have the flu, and then all of a sudden, yeah.
I saw you bristle a little bit when Nikki called you a W amputee. You kind of shifted your body a bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know you
Was
don't
that
like,
it?
I know you
I
don't
know.
like, you don't like that word.
I don't like labels.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You kind of, I saw your
Yeah.
body react. So
Yeah,
tell
I
us
don't
about
like
that.
labels. I don't like, you know, suddenly after I lost my legs, I was the patient, you know, patient to a prosthetist, an amputee, and I have prosthetic legs. There's something about that, you know, I'm perfectly comfortable with my situation, and I've gone on to model and act and help a lot of other people with prosthetics and different disabilities. So I'm totally comfortable with it, but there's something about the label of now I'm not Amy.
Right.
Or now I'm not just this normal, you know, beautiful woman. I'm, oh, Amy the double leg amputee.
I can understand that. Like, how would be a better way of explaining that?
You know, maybe, I don't know. I usually say, you know, and there's nothing wrong with it.
But educate us. The educators.
But yeah, I usually say I have prosthetic legs.
Right.
I don't usually say,
That's the last thing I would
amputee.
think she would say. I think you'd say something like, I lost my limbs to a terrible illness or something.
Yeah, or yeah, this is my friend Amy, she has prosthetic legs.
Right, right.
But you know, that's just my own thing.
I don't think of you, because I searched you out because I wanted somebody that I could, you know, build the legs for.
Right.
And then it went to a whole other level. What I found really inspirational is what you have done with your life with it, and how you teach soldiers how to deal with, you know, the different way of losing their limbs, but you know that you're not like, that's not it. It's not the end of your life.
Right. Yeah, and that's one thing that's interesting too, is I worked with soldiers, preparing them. I worked with the military, preparing them before they go to war, how to save each other in casualty scenarios. And then now with my organization, I work with them when they come back from war and get them back into snowboarding and skateboarding.
It's
and
fantastic.
all
It
the
is
action
fantastic.
sports.
And when I get to tell people this, young kids I see at the book signings crying, not just Amy, but Farrah and Matt and a lot of people that I've been fortunate enough to photograph. There's a bigger story here.
Well, that's what I was saying, Nick. I'm thinking about you, that picture with your mom with the sort of 50s cars, early 60s car behind, that kind of clean-cut kid, the life you've led, and now here you are.
Yeah.
We got just a few seconds left. What's the message in that?
The message for me is, and the message that I hope that people are getting is, you can do anything with your life that you want to do, and nothing can hold you back.
And Amy agrees with that.
Absolutely, I would say the same. We all have so much potential.
Yeah, I think that's, it makes me kind of tearful a little bit to think that,
And I think it's important for kids to hear this.
It is, because so many kids are in trouble and struggling, and that you can do anything, but you got to do it. You got to do it. You have to listen to direction.
You got to do the work.
And you have to do the work. You have to take the support of other people, closeness of others. Thank you, guys. Nikki, Amy, thank you for joining me. Tomorrow, we're going to talk royalty. Well, the king himself is going to be here, Larry King. And then there's that other thing, that wedding that's making news. I'll talk about that too. Lady Victoria will lead us through the day's events, and when we come back, I'll be taking your calls.